Explorers and archaeologists, among them clergymen, were drawn to the question of ancient Near Eastern texts and to the way that these texts were found. So we have a curious phenomenon of many clergymen who were also at the same time professors. In the 19th century, there was a real combination of the professorship and the clergy, especially in American Protestant institutions. These people were drawn to archaeology. And here we have one of the responses to the crisis. They said, we can become engaged in this science, the science of studying the Bible, and use it to buttress the authority of the Bible. We can show that archaeology might in some ways challenge biblical authority, but other aspects of archaeology can prove the Bible to be true. And here we have something that still operates throughout the United States. Seminars and excavations often held in the summer, heavily attended by people who are interested in biblical studies, which the seminars attempt to prove the biblical truth, and they use that phrase, by going to sites associated with biblical history. Now, those people, other than clergymen, who were excavating in the Near East, were very quick to understand the appeal of the biblical connection to the ancient Near Eastern texts and to the way which they were found. I've mentioned a number of times one of my culture heroes, Sir Leonard Woolley, the great British archaeologist, who it does not seem was deeply religious, but who understood that for the public, the connection to the Bible was all important. So when he excavated in the city of Ur in Iraq, he made sure to highlight the connection between Abraham and Ur. Although his excavations had nothing to do with Abraham, they were of the royal cemetery of Ur from the 3rd millennium, which long preceded Abraham. These excavators found that believers were willing to countenance the project of archaeology linked to the Bible if they felt that the project could lend some credence to biblical accounts. The greatest challenge from the Near Eastern texts to the idea of biblical originality came from the flood narratives discovered in the 19th century. In a very dramatic 1872 lecture, the British scholar George Adam Smith spoke to a large audience and said that he was going to read them from the text of the Babylonian Noah. That was his phrase. His source was the 11th tablet of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which had been unearthed long before in the excavations of Nineveh near the city of Mosul in Iraq, a city I'm sure you've heard of if you've been listening to the news recently. The tablet tells of Utnapishtim, a hero of this tablet who survived the flood and gained immortality. Let us hear some of this tablet from the 11th tablet of the Epic of Gilgamesh. There was a city called Shuruppak on the banks of the Euphrates. It was very old, and so many were the gods within it. They converged in their complex hearts on the idea of creating a great flood. There was Anu, their aging and weak-minded father, the military Enlil, his advisor, Ishtar, the sensation-craving one, and all the rest. Ea, who was present at their council, came to my house, and frightened by the violent winds that filled the air, echoed all that they were planning and had said. In this opening fragment of the tablet, we see that the flood is going to be brought by a congregation of the gods. The gods confer, they argue. And in our series, we've already met some of these gods. We've met Ishtar, also known as Inanna in Sumerian, the goddess of love and war. And we've met Ea, also known as Enki. I called him the administrator god, the organizer god, the god who favors humanity. What is his job in this story? He's coming to people, to one person, and he's going to tell them about the flood. What does he tell them? Men of Shuruppak, he said, tear down your house and build a ship. Abandon your possessions and the works that you find beautiful and crave, and save your life instead. Into the ship bring the seed of all living creatures. And now we hear the voice of Utnapishtim again. I was overawed, perplexed, and finally downcast. I agreed to do as Ea said, but I protested. What shall I say to the city, the people, the leaders? Tell them, Ea said, you have learnt that Enlil, the war god, despises you and will not give you access to the city anymore. Tell them this, for Ea will bring the rain.